You ready? Whatever you got.
I mean, maybe just start with these last couple practices. I know you got one more on Saturday, but how do you feel like things went this week?
It was good. You know, we were able to shift gears like we talked about and get into some more season-like practices. We talked about it many times. The practices in the first part of that spring were very long and tenuous, which was good, but this was more like the season where we'll have some crossover, let our team understand how to, hi Hunter, how are you? Let our team understand how to, cross over against each other when it's an emphasis of another opponent that we may be playing. So good special teams work, so it was a positive.
With the depth chart coming out yesterday and Daryl being at the top, can you just sort of talk about what allowed him to win that spot?
Nobody wants to talk about the left tackle or the center.
I know.
Yes.
Sean Harlow.
Yeah, exactly. That's him. The biggest thing is it's just you are always judged when at any position as a whole work of spring, the off season. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. I think all three quarterbacks have progressed. Marcus has gotten better. We just believe right now that Daryl's in the position to take the first snaps in the game and be our starting quarterback. And with that being said, I think it's very important that we always remember you have to have two pretty good quarterbacks in this league, and that was proven last year time and time again. Many times very positive for the teams that had a second quarterback come in, sometimes not as positive. So it's important that the kids understand where they sit. For our team right now, we have that opportunity to be able to do it, so we're going to take advantage of the situation and naming obviously Daryl the starter, and Marcus is in a spot to continually compete, and Mason will do the same.
When you look at just releasing the depth chart overall, was that just to sort of give guys an idea officially of where they stood? Like it's on paper, it's not just us telling you in a meeting or something like that, or just kind of what was the thought process behind it?
Honestly, it was a lot of it had to do with all the attention that likes to be given to naming a starting quarterback, which I don't believe in a press conference or walking up in front of you guys and saying, here's our starting quarterback. And it was a way for me to avoid that and just bring all the kids out here together and put out a depth chart that says, hey, this is where we are and who we are. Kids pretty much knew where they were, but I'm not just big into formal announcements of who starters are.
Was it Daryl's job to lose coming into spring, pretty much? I mean, what kind of separated him from the other two?
Again, I think there's a lot of things. Performance on the field was the most important aspect of the whole thing, and especially as we went through the later part of spring, I think Daryl took an upper hand in that area. Both kids competed extremely well. And I also think that Mason, as a freshman, continues to grow and grow and grow. But it's like any other position. Again, it's the whole body of your work and where you're at and what we believe is the best opportunity. Right at the quarterback spot, he's really judged no different than anyone else as far as us looking at his skill set in his particular position to be able to manage and handle the team.
When you look at it, whether it's a position group or maybe some specific guys, like who really helped themselves this spring, who really progressed as far as what they guys want?
Well, I would say as hard as I was on the wide receivers after the Hillsborough scrimmage, I'm not saying I flip-flopped them. They flip-flopped themselves and became playmakers. We started to catch some contested balls and deal with the easy catches better, and it was good to see. We got some yards after the catch, and so those kids I think really stepped up late. The running back position, as far as Ryan, I thought that we looked for that to be very solid and solidified walking out of spring, and I don't feel that way. I feel Ryan is number one, and he has done nothing but distance himself from the others, some due to injuries, some due to inexperience, injury and inexperience. So that is a high level of concern for me walking into the spring. We have bodies, but bodies have to practice to be able to show that they can do it. So that's a position I would say I wish did more in the spring, and that was disappointing.
When you mentioned the injuries, a lot of guys were held out of the spring game. I know a lot for precautionary reasons. How are any of those injuries a legitimate concern going into fall camp now, or just kind of how do you assess where the health of this team goes?
Well, I think anytime a young man's coming off of surgery and is expected to be back for fall, it's always a legitimate concern. Are they on schedule? Yes, and that's a great place for us to be. There's nothing that we came out of spring football, all 14 practices to this point, and say that's going to keep him out for fall camp, which is great at this point. So we should be a pretty healthy football team, and we still have to stay on the edge of things, though, right? So like I told the kids right after practice, we're still chasing everybody, and until some numbers flip and we do some things to tell us otherwise, we're chasing. And if you're not out working everybody and doing things that other people aren't doing, you're never going to catch anybody. So those injuries have got to continue to be a mindset that they're going to work every day to get better and get back as fast as they can, yet stay attention to their details when it comes to rehab. But we need everybody, and we need everybody out here training the right way in the next 5 or 6 weeks before school's still going.
I know it's always this way as far as not everybody's here in the spring that's going to be here for the season, but is it even harder to gauge kind of where you guys are just because of the big recruiting class that is coming in the fall, whether it's the JC guys or some freshmen and guys that are expected to compete immediately?
Well, it was great to get the kids we had. Obviously, you guys have seen them, but especially on defense, there's a lot of bodies coming in. Really, on offense, there's just one more player coming in. Unless, of course, we find somebody during spring recruiting, which we'll never stop looking. So there will be 3 or 4 names and young men that pop up during spring recruiting that may have a possibility to come in and help us. And if we find a difference maker, we'll take a difference maker every time. Defensively, there is a lot of that. The outside linebacker position depth, is very, very unsettled. And so we'll see where that goes. The inside linebacker depth is the exact same situation. So the ground that those young men can make up between what they're doing right now to when they get here and be prepared to come out on the field has a lot to do with themselves. It has a lot to do with these kids. Are they going to help them get ready? Are they really going to prepare them the way that they should? And it has a lot to do with us as coaches to make sure we have a plan in place for those young men to follow. So there's a lot of pieces to that. Defensively, the safety's another position. Who's going to be there? Who is the depth at that? So unsettled depth at defense, not really unsettled starters, I would say, but unsettled depth.
What's going to be the itinerary for Saturday's practice? Like, do you approach it like normal practice, it being the final practice of spring? Or?
No, it's a player-ran practice with coaches on the field. No pads, no helmets, jerseys and cleats, and the coaches will still be on the field. But our coaches are really there to observe and understand how our kids are going to handle player-ran practices. We don't have a bunch of them, a half dozen, maybe 8 at the most between now and when we come back and start August 4th. But those player-ran practices are great opportunities, and I think we need to let the kids understand what our expectation levels are. If it's good, we'll tell them it's good. If it needs to be fixed, we'll tell them it needs to be fixed. It's an hour and 20 minutes. We stretch at 9. We'll be out of here at 10:20.
Did you guys do that last year, too?
No,
okay.
We did not do that last year. I think last year obviously our spring game was the last game last year. We did something similar to that in August when we were asking to have some player-ran practices, but it was that was so late in the process. So we're trying to get a jump start on it. Just one more thing to hopefully be able to, like I say, catch the people we got to catch. And there's 11 of them out there we're chasing right now.
When you look then beyond that, as far as just getting ready for summer workouts, and I know there are a couple of discretionary weeks and that sort of thing, just what do you want to see out of the guys moving forward?
I want to see each and every one of them, first of all, handle themselves off the field the way they're supposed to, academically continue to progress and keep those high expectations, no spring fever, if you will. I also want to see the kids understand what their individual goals are from their coach and from themselves. So what's your goal weight? Make that goal weight. Let's not all of a sudden take 3 or 4 weeks off or take a step back. And if I've got to get stronger, then let's get stronger. If I've got to rehab an injury, let's rehab an injury. If I have a shoulder that had a little tweak, let's prehab to prevent the rehab coming at us down the road. So there's so many things that we've shared with these kids of the expectation of them. But maybe the biggest thing is are they going to hold each other accountable to do all those things? When they want to come out here and throw skelly, is it going to be 100% attendance? I don't know. I can't know. It's against the rules to know. But, if I'm the starting quarterback or if I'm the starting wide receiver, I'm going to know. And I'm going to hold the kids accountable. So all those things I think are very important. Not just one thing. I have high expectations for them in a lot of ways. And, again, if we're going to make ground, they have to be different than they have been. They do the same thing, they'll get the same results.
Are you overall satisfied with how this went as far as the longer practices, just kind of your second spring under your belt, or are you?
I think we're good enough right now that this year I'm not going to say I'm satisfied with anything. I refuse, and I hope the kids would refuse to say that too, because we're in no position. And did we work hard? Yeah, I believe that, and there's so many things that I can say that are positives, and I share the positives with the kids, but we're in such a big boy battle And this is a long, long, long drug-out fight with a lot of rounds left in us. We have worked hard. I think there's a lot of commitment. It's never 100% the way you want it to be, but we'll continue to fight and progress. But how much strides we've made will be judged by that when we take the field, obviously. But I'm not going to sit here and say I'm happy. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to live in the heart just like I asked them to, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow and grind another day.
What's the biggest challenge for you as a coach to keep those guys focused and hungry leading up to fall camp?
Well, I think keep pressing them. You know, these guys can handle to be pressed. They've shown that. But yet also, and I shared again with them today after practices, there is a time when you still need to work. You're going to have some individual time to work right now. That comes with responsibility. And I want them to handle that because I do want them to have college experience, and this is kind of the time of the year when they can do that. They'll still be in the weight room. We'll be right back in the weight room Monday morning, and our coaches will be out there with them with some individual and some different things as we start through, like it's in January, but they will have more time, and I want them to enjoy that. They need to take a big deep breath, but it doesn't mean they can stop, but it means, you know, you have to, as a head coach, I think you have to be careful and understand they're still kids. You can't push too hard, but it's not going to stop me from pushing, if that makes any sense at all.